This is DW News, and we are streaming live from Berlin. I'm Melissa Chan. The Israeli Air Force says it has begun an investigation into the apparent failure to intercept missiles that struck the cities of Arad and Dimona overnight, injuring more than 100 people, some seriously. The targets struck are near Israel's main nuclear research center. Iran says the strikes were retaliation for the U.S. attack a day earlier on its Natanz nuclear facility. I want to pull up a social media clip. It's very short, but it appears to show the moment in which this video, yes. And there you go, and very dramatic images there. And I also want to play a soundbite from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in response to what has happened in Israel.
We're here in Arad. A miracle happened here, but it was one that should not have been needed. The miracle is that no one was killed. The mayor tells me that the alarm went off at 1 minute before 10. The missile struck at 9 minutes past 10. That means people had 10 minutes to take shelter. Unfortunately, not everyone did.
We're very glad to have Emily Gordine, our DW Jerusalem correspondent, joining us with the latest. Emily, first question is, what is the Israeli government saying about these attacks?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu certainly says that these attacks are evidence that the Iranian regime is a threat not just to Israel, but to the whole world, essentially. He has made reference not just to this attack in Arad and Dimona, but also in reference to the attacks on Jerusalem that we saw in the last few days, where the walls of the old city were also hit by shrapnel of an intercepted missile, to show that essentially nothing is holy to the Iranian regime. So very strong language there, leaving out though that these are the two cities that were hit are obviously in close range to the Dimona nuclear facilities in Israel. But ultimately, of course, this is, when you look at the footage, over 100 people injured. This is something that will unsettle Israelis. And at the moment, what we're seeing is that Donald Trump, the US president, is trying to get other countries to support the opening of the Straits of Homzu to force the Iranians back there. And there's so far been very slow response from the international community to give their support to a possible maritime mission there. And I think what the Israeli government here is trying to do is to show that right now it's hitting us, but you could be next. In a sort of attempt, I think, to encourage other leaders to join this operation against Iran.
Now, there are different levels of civilian protection from air attacks in Israel. Do you know what the situation is in Arad and Dimona, or is that something that everyone is asking right now?
Well, why this missile was not intercepted, I think that is something that everyone at the moment is asking themselves. Usually the alarms go off and give people a warning. We just heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu himself that people did have 10 minutes to go and seek shelter, and that unfortunately some people didn't. But many houses in Israel have shelters. There are also many public shelters in a lot of Israeli cities and in villages, less so in Arab Israeli cities and villages. And usually my experience has been in Jerusalem, but also in Tel Aviv, that the majority of people do, as soon as the alerts come into your phone, it's a very loud alert, and then you eventually hear the sirens across the city, that people do seek shelter.
I want to pull up a comment from the Israeli military spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shossani. This is what he said today. I'm going to quote this, and hopefully, yes, there it is. Quote, Iran has fired over 400 ballistic missiles. We have had great inception rates. We have approximately a 92% successful interception rate. I mean, that does provide a little bit of context. And I guess my question is, what is your reaction to those comments, and how much of a shock is it then that there are these direct hits that have happened?
Well, I mean, Israelis, of course, the scenes of this missile striking Arad and also Dimona will cause shockwaves across Israel. People are shocked at these scenes because it is scary. That does not change the fact that many Israelis do support this military operation in Iran. They see Iran as the biggest existential threat to Israel. They see it as the source of instability across the region, and they see it also as the source of fundamentalism, a fundamentalist streak in Islam. And many wish this regime did not exist any longer. And I think, and if you look at the numbers over the past few weeks, that has not changed. There is a risk that the Israelis are prepared to take. They are also aware that it will come at a cost. And we see in the polls that the support for this operation hasn't gone away. It has stayed pretty consistent among Jewish Israelis. 2/3 of the Arab Israelis don't support this operation. But what you can say and what you can see is that Jewish Israelis, the intensity of which they believe that all of these goals that have been set out by the Israeli government will be achieved. So, for example, when you look at, the Israeli government, or Netanyahu himself has made it very clear that a preferable outcome of this would be the fall of the Iranian regime so that civil society in Iran can take over. When you look at the polls, you have seen a drop in those who believe that this is possible. So I think Israelis are also adjusting their expectations. And I think what I'm hearing specifically from Israelis is that they support this operation, but they want to see a plan afterwards. And I think that is the crux here. The crux is, sorry, yes, please.
No. Finish your quick thought, Emily. But I want to actually put you on standby and go to Marina Miron next. So, but do finish that final thought you had, and then stay with us, Emily. But what?
I just wanted to say that there is consensus in Israel that the Israeli military has managed to achieve significant operational successes in Iran with the dismantling of ballistic missile launches and so on. But there is a concern that there is no strategy of getting out of this war. And I think that is what's going to influence in the future as well, how the support for how long this war is going to go on.
Got it. Emily, please stay on standby. I do want to go to Marina Miron of King's College, London. She's a military analyst. Thank you so much for your patience. Welcome. I want to ask if you can weigh in on based on your expertise in terms of these missiles penetrating Israel's air defense layers. What's your takeaway?
It's an interesting one. Of course, it is a shocking sight for the Israelis, given the fact that these missiles managed to reach both Dimona and Arad. Dimona was most likely the target, because if you look at the Iranian discourse, Iranian military discourse and Revolutionary Guard Corps, they always talk about Dimona because of the Shimon Peres Negev nuclear research facility, which is believed to be the actual Israeli nuclear program, which is located there. And this is the most protected site. So from that perspective, it does have strategic implications, because if we look at the footage, it looks like there was an attempt to intercept the Iranian missile, whichever missile it was a medium-range ballistic missile. Maybe it was of the Imad series, which would have the reach to reach Dimona. But what this actually signifies is that we have to look at the Israeli air defense system. And often it is being talked about Iron Dome, but Iron Dome is not the only one. First, you have Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 and David Sling before Iron Dome would get engaged. Iron Dome is a short-range air defense system. So in essence, what this is showing is that all layers of Israeli air defenses have been penetrated. And we don't know whether the nuclear research center was the actual target, or whether Iran was just testing how well these locations are protected so that it could land a strike in the vicinity of the nuclear research facility, meaning that this exposes vulnerability on the one hand. On the other hand, the question is, what if Iran were to launch a barrage of missiles? Because at least from the limited information that we have about this and from the footage, it doesn't look like there was a barrage of missiles attacking Dimona and Arad.
And yet Prime Minister Netanyahu said on Thursday, I believe, quote, Iran is being decimated, and yet we are talking today about these hits. So what do you make of his political statement with respect to Iran's demonstrated operational capability? I know you talked a little bit about that, but in that context of that political statement.
Who is this political statement aimed at is the first question. Of course, you are not going as a politician to admit that your adversary still has serious capabilities left. Be it Iran, the Iranians with the decimated military capabilities, or largely decimated military capabilities, are still saying we're going to launch Operation True Promise number XYZ because we still have the capabilities and we have done a lot of damage. A lot of AI-generated content is being used through this military or through this war that is, let's call it war, that is going on between Israel and Iran and the United States, right? So are there statistics, are there credible, independently verifiable statistics of interception rates? I don't know. I don't think such a thing would exist at this moment. On the Iranian side, it's exactly the same, the way this is being portrayed. So we have to be very careful with what the actual political statements are. And again, they have their audiences. And certainly they are not aimed at making people, especially people inside Israel, in this case, panic. Of course, you want to show resilience.
I'm curious, do you, based on what you were saying, what do you think is Iran's capacity in terms of its ability to sustain this kind of attack tempo going forward?
It seems like Iran, despite everything that has been said about Iranian Navy being destroyed or being sunk, for that matter, and a lot of missile launchers having been destroyed, Iran still retains enough capabilities, as it would seem, and as the strike might demonstrate, in order to create pressure on Israel, in order to create pressure on the Gulf states and on the United States. It's not also in conventional terms, because Iran has also cyber units, a Revolutionary Guard, for instance, and different cyber actors working in favor of Iran. We have a lot of proxies across the Middle East, and it's not just the usual, the Houthis and the Hezbollah. There are also groups in Iraq, some in Syria, which were not aligned with Iran before, but are sympathizing with Iran. Even if they are Sunni Muslim, they are still sympathizing with Iran because they don't like Israel and they don't like the United States. So we have a network of proxies and their affiliates who could complicate the situation, essentially across the entire Middle East and well beyond that. And of course, we have the subterranean constructions in form of factories, in form of storage facilities, which appear to be, at least to a certain extent, intact if Iran is still capable of launching these ballistic missiles. And if it is a MAD, so it means that it's now using more sophisticated, more precise ballistic missiles. How many it has left, we don't know. And we also have cruise missiles, which we haven't seen in action yet. But the question is that going to be a next escalatory step by Iran?
Marina Miron, we'll leave it there. Thank you, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Now we have our Jerusalem Bureau Chief, Tanya Kramer, who is in Dimona, I believe. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. You visited both sites, Arad and Dimona. What impressions have you gained from Israelis in the two places targeted by the Iran strikes?
Yeah, we arrived quite early here this morning in Dimona, and some people were still in their pajamas, just sitting outside of their houses that were extremely damaged from this hit. The hit, actually, the main hit was here just right behind us. We moved a bit outside of this area also to be closer to the public shelter here. And basically what happened is that the missiles that that, the mirage of missiles one of them were not intercepted, especially here in Dimona. And you can see really sheer destruction all around us. It's not just in this one place where there has been a hit, but also, in the whole residential neighborhood here. So we've been talking to people, and one of the families that were just going through their things at home, very much in disbelief of what happened. They were able to go to the shelter. They had, the pre-alarm, and then they moved to the public shelter. These people here, some of them, they don't have shelters or safe rooms at home, so they have to go to the main shelter. And they were saved, but then there were others who didn't make it for whatever reason. We know also one of the children here injured was on its way to the shelter. And you always have to think about, there are also many elderly people. They need much more time maybe than those 8 to 10 minutes that you might have, or people that are, with special needs. We also saw some people here that need much more time to get there. So, yeah, that's the situation right here. I think people are very much in disbelief that this happened, and the destruction is really very widespread.
Tanya, I know you are in Dimona, but we do have some comments from people from Arad. What you're about to see are it's shot overnight, so it's in the dark. And of course, it's daytime now in Israel. But let's just have a listen, particularly because Tanya was talking about how people were feeling.
We listened, boom! Oh, everybody was in the mamad, but not I. It was something very, very afraid. Her big son called, mother, all windows go out, all home go out, all go out.
Yeah, it's scary. They bomb us, so, and we never actually, this city never experienced something like that actually bombed the city, like straight hit. So, it feels like we're in the situation, we are on this hotspot, so it is scary.
Tanya, people apparently genuinely sounding very shocked. I want to ask you about that. Are people shocked? To what extent are they shocked that the missiles evaded Israel's air defenses?
Well, we've seen missiles evading or not being intercepted before, but now, if it's so close to where you are, where you live, then obviously, this is, you are shocked. And basically, we are seeing this also when we're in Jerusalem. We have, sometimes these, you have a pre-alert, and if you're not near a shelter, for example, you don't know where you're going. So obviously, people are very much on edge. It's very unpredictable. You never quite know when those missile alerts come, when the missiles are being launched. And I've been speaking to people here, said, it's week 4 almost now of this war, so how long and when is this going to finish? And so far, the politicians, and we also saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu coming here, he has not really given an answer to this.
And we did run the comments from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier. I want to take this opportunity to, because Tanya, what you're describing is a sense of citizens supporting what they feel must continue, and there's a sense of defiance. And in terms of political leadership, here's a soundbite from Israel's National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and he is, as a reminder, a member of the far right, considered quite extreme in Israel. But let's have a listen, and Tanya, I want you to provide a little bit more of a context in terms of what he has said.
I came to strengthen, embrace them, support them, and win. We must win. We have here a historic battle against the devil, this devil's head which we must defeat. We don't stop. We continue until victory.
Tanya, I don't know what are your initial thoughts just hearing him say that?
Well, the Minister for National Security is basically known for his very populist approach. He's from the far right. This is the way he speaks. And we hear this also from other ministers in the government that basically, they're calling on Israelis to be steadfast, to be resilient, that this is a battle for generations, that this is, going down history. So we know this especially from him calling for this. But we also heard earlier from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was here in Dimona as well. He also called on people basically, to go to the shelter, to adhere to the home front command. But when he was asked when this will all end, he didn't really give an answer. Basically, what the Israeli government has said so far is that this will go on as long as needed.
Tanya Kramer in Dimona, thank you very much and stay safe. And now we go to Emily. Emily, thank you so much for your patience there, but I know you've been listening. And right now, I also want to pull up live pictures from Arad as I ask my next question for you. There you go. There we see it. Emily, I've been talking to Tanya. I've been talking to Marina. My question to you is, how likely is Israel to escalate, and what might they do? I mean, it sounds like they are willing to continue fighting.
Said that Israeli attacks on Iran would increase significantly. We also know that the US president gave Iran a 48-hour ultimatum, and unless they would open the Strait of Hormuz, the Americans would start going after the Iranian power grid. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was asked whether Israel would join those strikes. He didn't give a definite answer, but it wouldn't be the first time the Israelis support American attacks. This is, after all, a joint operation in Iran. Of course, the question of support when it comes to this operation very much depends also on the outcome of it. And while the Israeli leadership has again and again stated its goals, I think as time passes, and also you have to look at other conflicts here in the region, what happened in Gaza, what's happening in Lebanon, where we've seen a different kind of blueprint, the same blueprint really applied, where the Israelis have gone after the political leadership of the different organizations, Hamas, which is considered a terrorist organization in many Western countries. It has also gone after the leadership of Hezbollah, and it's done the same in Iran with the elimination of Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. But again, what we're seeing in Gaza specifically, even though the political leadership was eliminated, was killed, Hamas is reportedly gaining control again over Gaza. And the question is whether the same thing will happen in Lebanon. It is, of course, a different kind of, is this a different kind of context? But one thing that military analysts in Israel have been quite concerned about is that while there is support for these various operations, there is general concern about the strategic aspect of this. And I think you can also see this in the way that Israelis look at this conflict, in the sense that I think as an Israeli, you can support these different military operations, but you can also be very distrustful of the person who's leading them. And in that case, that is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And he has managed to gain some support since it dropped before October 7th, but it's been very slow. And the coalition that he leads as such would not be able to be in power again if there were elections today. And we must not forget that this is an election year for Israel this year.
Emily Gordine, thank you very much. We're going to leave you there, unless you have any additional final thoughts, but very grateful for everything that you've done from across the region over the past few weeks.
Thank you.
And that is all for this live stream and this update on the conflict in the Middle East. As always, go on our YouTube or TikTok at DW News, and you can check out what the next live stream is going to be on and when it will take place. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Melissa Chan. Have a good day.